Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where today we have three very interesting stories about unusual moves in Hollywood. And by that I mean talent getting opportunities that you wouldn't usually expect for said talent. Well, actually, the second story I think follows some moves that we've seen in the industry, but still, for Margot Robbie, I think it's very surprising. And kudos to her. But we're not talking about that first. First, we're talking about Donald Glover and the news that he is in talks to join Spider-Man Homecoming, the joint venture from both Sony and Marvel, where they hope that the third time's the charm. Although I think when both Spider-Man incarnations so far, there was some charm, and people definitely like both those versions, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, at certain points. So I think it isn't quite as bleak over there at Sony as some might currently have you believe. But anyway, they're trying again. Everybody loved Tom Holland in Civil War, so that movie, I think, is on a good footing. But they're very interesting over there, and that they've been very secretive about their casting. They're like, we're talking to Donald Glover, we're talking to Michael Keaton, but who they're playing, you don't know. Now, I've said before that I think Michael Keaton is most likely going to be Norman Osborn. Everyone's saying the Vulture, I think because of his age, so that's ageism at work there. But I believe that Michael Keaton is probably up for Norman Osborn. I don't think any other role would be, quite frankly, worth his time. And also the current prestige that he enjoys. He wants to keep that, and I think it's hard to have prestige as an actor if you're playing the Vulture. But with Donald Glover, the reason everyone's so excited about this is because of Miles Morales, right? Now, Miles Morales, there's a rumor that he's going to be the focus of the upcoming animated movie. We'll have to see. But this would be a very big change because in the comics, well, now in the 616, Miles Morales, well, actually, he's always been younger than Peter Parker, even in the Ultimate Universe in which he was first born. So they would obviously be switching that up if Donald Glover was playing Miles Morales because he's obviously much older than Tom Holland. So why would he be Miles Morales besides, his ethnicity? Well, if you don't know this, and you probably do because it's a big deal, Donald Glover is the one who is responsible for the creation of Miles Morales because he asked the question, why can't I be considered for the role of Spider-Man when they were recasting, when they were going to recast it. And it was a legitimate question. Donald Glover, he's a funny guy. He totally could be Peter Parker, right, if you were going to do race-blind casting. But of course, he pointed out that he would never be considered for the role. And a lot of people supported him, a big thing on social media, so much so that Brian Michael Bendis and Marvel realized that and created an alternative Spider-Man, Miles Morales, who I think in his own right has very much become Spider-Man. I think these days his title is very good when it comes out. But I think that they've had a hard time integrating him into the 616. Basically, I think no one's very good at writing Miles Morales except for Brian Michael Bendis, and they need to find someone who can do a good job. It's just like Damian Wayne has had a lot of problems transitioning over at DC. Like Grant Morrison was great at writing Damian Wayne, and Peter Tomasi was great at writing Damian Wayne. But now they do not have such good people writing Damian Wayne. And as a result, he's fallen away a little bit, just as Miles Morales has. So it would seem to me to be odd to put Donald Glover in a Spider-Man movie and not have him play Miles Morales, right? Like, if he just goes in there as like a token role, with respect to Lawrence Fishburne playing Perry White, I really don't think the people are going to like that very much. He could play... I forget the name of the character, Robbie Johnson, I think it is, over, the J. Jonah Jameson's second in command over at the Bugle. He could be playing someone, in that family, but I don't even remember that character's name because he's not that big a deal. So I would actually like to see him play Miles Morales. I think that would be quite fitting, and he actually kind of looks a little bit like the way they envisioned the character in the comics. I just don't know how. I wouldn't put Donald Glover in a Spider-Man movie unless it was to play Miles Morales. So we'll see. I'm very curious. I'm just glad to see Donald Glover's star rising. He was very good in his small role in The Martian, and I'd like to see him get more work like that. And just more work where I guess it would matter quite a bit here if he was Miles Morales, but I said one of the nice things about Now You See Me Too is that Sanaa Lathan was in the film, and she did a really great job. So it would be nice to see more and more actors of color coming into movies just in a legitimate way rather than tokenism. So we'll see. Marvel, of course, is very heavily involved in this, and I don't think Marvel would make that bad a decision. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story of the day, as I said, involves Margot Robbie. What's she up to? Well, boy, she's signing a lot of deals. She's a little bit like Dwayne Johnson, signing a lot of deals before her next movie comes out. Now, I've said I'm seeing Central Intelligence tomorrow night. It's only 1 day difference from the press screening, so I'm just going to go and see it tomorrow night. But I think that I have a suspicion that Central Intelligence is not very good. So that's why Dwayne Johnson, because it's been held so late for reviews, and not even like, sometimes like they'll hold it very late for all media reviews, but usually like the top movie critics like Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly, etc., they'll get earlier access to a movie. So you'll see the reviews come out a little bit in advance, especially because the movie already premiered. So reviews should have come out when it premiered, but they didn't. So I think that's a very bad sign. But, to his credit, Dwayne Johnson signed a bunch of deals right away, before the Central Intelligence came out, so they were all set. And I think, not to say that Suicide Squad isn't good, I think it's probably going to be quite good, actually. I'm hoping it is, boy, I'm hoping. We'll see. We'll see what the media does to it, because I think that Warcraft wasn't as bad as everyone said it was in the media, but that killed its chances here in the States. It never even had a chance to get off the ground. Just like with Batman v Superman. While I understand that a lot of people didn't enjoy it, a lot of people never even went to see Batman v Superman because of the negative buzz. So it'll be interesting when that comes out on Blu-ray and digital release. If maybe some people are like, I should have seen it in the theater. But anyway, so Suicide Squad could be brought down in that manner. However, I think that Tarzan is on very unsure footing. So I think that Margot Robbie, she's very hot at the moment right now. Why take the chance? Sign as many deals as you can, right? And that's what I think she's doing. And she just signed a major deal. We just talked about her yesterday with her joining that Winnie the Pooh movie, Goodbye Christopher Robin, but that's in a smaller capacity. This is going to be a big one. What is it? You've seen from the picture here. She's going to play Tonya Harding in a biopic by Chris Gillespie. He's been signed on to direct. Now, Chris Gillespie came on with Lars and the Real Girl. Then he went to Disney and he did some mainstream movies, $1 Million Arm, which I haven't seen, and The Finest Hours. I saw some people talking some smack about The Finest Hours and their coverage of this. Finest Hours is a very good movie. It's not an amazing, groundbreaking movie, but it's really well made. I saw it in 3D, and it was amazing. Obviously, now you can't see it in 3D, but it's a very well-crafted film. It's very cozy. I just think it's very admirable. I think it's a great movie. If you're looking for something to watch, I really would watch The Finest Hours. It's a fine film. But anyway, obviously he's not making the waves that he once did with Lars and the Real Girl. So he's coming on to this Tonya Harding movie, and Robbie is going to star as Tonya Harding. That's a big deal. I feel that this is her Oscar hopeful, right? Tonya Harding, of course, is the one who took out, ordered the hit on Nancy Kerrigan, so they were competing in the Olympics together. And I believe it's a little bit like Charlize Theron taking on the role in Monster, or Halle Berry in Monsters Ball. And those roles, of course, won both those actresses Oscars. And actresses, by the way, who had a very similar image to the one that Margot Robbie has right now. So Margot Robbie, I think, either she or her agent, or both of them, are very, very smart. And she's doing a very good job diversifying her portfolio. She's got a lot of good roles. She's making sure that people take her seriously. She's got her big character now with Harley Quinn. She's set in the blockbuster zone. Hopefully, we'll see. But it's looking very positive. And now she's looking to shore up her critical zone. And I think that's very smart. And if the Tonya Harding, I don't know if Chris Gillespie is the right choice for this. I think they could have gotten a better director. But we'll see, in terms of assuring Oscar potential. But I think that's what's going on here, and I think that's why Margot Robbie wants this role, and I'll be very interested to see if she can pull it off. I haven't seen a lot of range from Margot Robbie, but I think she's very likable. I just watched Whiskey Tango Foxtrot last night. It was okay. She did an all right job, but she wasn't she didn't blow me out of the water or anything. But, I think, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think Charlize Theron has become an amazing actress, but I think Halle Berry never really became an amazing actress. And I think to some degree to this day, people question her Oscar. But it means you can still win one, even if you don't deserve one. It's very political. So I think Margot Robbie is aware of that and is putting the pieces in place. So kudos to her. She knows how to play the game, or at least she knows how the game is played. Let's see if she can play it. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day, this is fascinating. All right, so Beverly Hills Cop 4, they're still working on it. Now, it was supposed to come together with Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner and Eddie Murphy, still pals. They're thinking of making a Netflix movie or miniseries together. But anyway, not Beverly Hills Cop 4. But Jerry Bruckheimer still wants this to move forward, and it looks like they've signed a directing team out of Belgium. but they're also of Moroccan descent. So, who are the directors? They're another directing duo. They're not brothers, but they're a directing duo. And it's Adil Al Arbi and Bilal Fallah. They are Moroccan descent, both from Brussels in Belgium, and their film at the Toronto International Film Festival last year, Black, which is kind of like a Romeo and Juliet of gang warfare in Belgium, was very well received. So that put them on everyone's radar in Hollywood. Just like the Kon-Tiki directors got Pirates of the Caribbean 5, right? So it's like, as we've discussed recently, today the name of the game in Hollywood is finding a prestige director to stick on your blockbuster to give it a little bit of credibility, because everybody's very concerned with quality these days. Oh, it had to happen at some point, right? But Hollywood has finally realized that audiences are very concerned about quality because it's so freaking expensive to see these movies. So this is one of their answers to it. So they want to go and find directors who do well at festivals and stick them on these big movies. So anyway, what I like about this is that this is Middle Eastern. Morocco is in Africa, but still, these are Middle Eastern talent by way of Europe going into mainstream cinema. And this is very similar to London Has Fallen, which was directed by someone from Sweden of Iranian descent, Babak Najafi. And I think it's really fantastic to see these filmmakers coming through Europe and being very successful in a time when there's a lot of question about immigration in Europe, right, from the Middle East. And I bring that up because, my spoiler review for Finding Dory is going to go up today as well, and I have a big discussion there about Idris Elba, and that he just perfectly captures, a British, soccer for us Americans, fan like at the pub in his character. And, sure, the color of the face changes, but it's still very authentically British. So I think there's a big discussion right now about Europe maybe losing its identity with this influx of immigrants, but I think you can see that these immigrants, or second generation, whatever generation these individuals, in talks might be, are very much joining the culture of those countries and furthering their footprint in the world. And I think it's really awesome. It's like just, like America. When America took in so many people, immigration is a big part of our heritage. It was a stew, it was a melting pot, but it stayed a little chunky. Everyone wanted to keep their cultures a little bit. And I think that's really the ideal situation. You want it to melt a little bit so everyone feels like a cohesive group, but you want to maintain that flavor. But I think it's wonderful. I think these individuals are doing really well. And also there's some discussion about how people of Middle Eastern descent are depicted in big mainstream movies. People had a big problem with London Has Fallen, but I think it's interesting that it was directed by someone who is Iranian. But if you have more talent like this behind the camera, that might trickle down. Hopefully, that's the ideal situation, to have that type of individual is depicted on camera. Maybe even in Beverly Hills Cop 4, they could start bringing in some people on the heroic side of the equation instead of always being the villains. I think that's very important. People take their cues about how to perceive stereotypes from popular entertainment. And for instance, one of the reasons people were so comfortable with the idea of a black president is because it was introduced first in the media and shows like 24, right? So the media can really make a big difference here, movies and TV. And so, they need to start doing that. I think that's one of the reasons people are very excited for Riz Ahmed's career in front of the camera. From Nightcrawler, he's in the new Rogue One. They didn't bother to put him in the trailer, but he's there. And he's also in a big new HBO show as well. And I have high hopes for him there. So we'll see. I think it's exciting. It's slowly moving ahead, but it is moving ahead. And I'm curious to how you feel about that, particularly BTT viewers in Europe. All right, so the viewer question of the day, speaking of Star Wars, comes from Rabia Khan. Excellent. Yes, see? All right, so Rabia Khan says, "Hi, Grace. Question. With the release of Rogue One in December, do you think we will not see a trailer for Episode 8 until next spring? I, probably like Disney, think that audiences will be confused to see trailers for two different Star Wars movies at once. Your thoughts? Keep up the great coverage, Rabia." Well, Rabia, yes, I think that Disney, and I think this probably surprised Disney, they're having a little bit of trouble making sure that the mainstream moviegoer, not the big fan like most of us, is aware of what's going on with the timeline on the Star Wars movies. Like, you might recall when Rogue One came out, the teaser, everybody was like, a lot of people online had to make a concentrated effort to be like, it's a prequel. It's a prequel, it's a prequel, it's a prequel. Because a lot of people were like, I don't know what's happening here. I just see Star Wars. I don't know. So yes, and they didn't really make a big, effort to say prequel. So that's problematic, and they're going to have to be clearer with that moving forward. But yes, I think you can't really have trailers for two different Star Wars movies at the same time. I think it would be confusing. However, luckily, while they have Marvel movies every couple of months, right? Star Wars movies are only going to come out once a year, pretty much, right? I think there might be some deviation in the future, but right now it seems once a year. They're going to alternate. Spin-off movie, episode, an episode, right? One of the chapters of the main through line. And so that gives them a whole year to advertise said movies. So I wouldn't say next spring you're going to see an episode 8 trailer. I think you're going to see an episode 8 trailer with Rogue One, right? I think it'll play probably in front of Rogue One. I think they're just going to, keep it going, just like not, like just a baton pass, right, from Rogue One to Star Wars Episode 8, because they'll be like, you're seeing Rogue One, now you can get excited for Episode 8. So that's when I would predict you would see a trailer, probably the week that Rogue One hits theaters. If Rogue One does hit theaters as intended, I'm very curious to see if it makes its release date. Everyone's saying that it will, but with the extensive reshoots that they're doing, they're going to have to really rush, especially with all the visual effects that I'm sure need to be added to make sure this thing makes its December release date. It would be incredibly embarrassing if it did not, and it would be just horrible to follow up this fantastic success of The Force Awakens with that kind of a situation. So I think it probably will make it. They'll probably just pull another like Frozen and hopefully out of the hat. And I still have faith in Rogue One. I had problems with it a little bit, but I thought visually it was spectacular. So I hope it turns out. I really hope it turns out. I'm very, I said I had problems with Star Wars The Force Awakens, partially because it was just so derivative of Episode 4. And also I didn't like the misdirect on John Boyega's character, and the Mary Susan was a little bit bad. But overall, I said that it did make me very excited to be back in the Star Wars universe and to see what's coming next. And it made me a big Daisy Ridley fan. So, and I'm also very curious about what's going on with Poe Dameron. So as you can see, I think that, the Star Wars universe is alive and well, or off to a very good start. So let's hope it doesn't stumble with its second step. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on today's stories and Rabia Khan's viewer question? When do you think that they'll have another, when do you think they'll debut the trailer for Star Wars Episode 8? And how do you think Disney can best make sure that people are aware of the, jumping around the timeline? And again, I'm not talking about hardcore fans or even casual fans. I'm talking about that mainstream moviegoer who doesn't go online all the time to get movie news, just sees trailers and advertisements on TV and goes to the theater once a month, if that. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, and you can let me know what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.